So in the last video, we kind of ended by starting to think about some structures for Pennsylvania specifically. And so if you're in a public school, you're probably familiar with response to intervention or RTII framework for looking at students in a system, right? And so tier one, we have our standard aligned instruction for all students. Tier two is after we look at the data, we've got some kids who are just kind of below benchmark, and we kind of plan and provide intervention for them that matches or coordinates with tier one. And then tier three are for those few students who really just are, have come in further below benchmark, or, are really struggling for some reason, or perhaps they've moved from a school system that the tier one, wasn't necessarily, in place for those students, and they just need some additional remediation. Um, Now the state has kind of put RTII really in the center of what they call multi-tiered system of supports, where they're now really looking at, what's the problem, why is it occurring, what are we going to do, and is it working? And there's this kind of continual process, and it's more than just academics. They're also looking at, behaviors and other issues that may be kind of impacting students. So this is a structure in Pennsylvania. We also know that Department of Education then really has a plan for assessment as well as overall student achievement. So if you're not familiar with the standard align system in Pennsylvania, we're going to visit that shortly. But at the center of that system is student achievement. And they've organized resources that you as a coach would want to be familiar with, or as a reading specialist, that, there's a curriculum framework, there's assessment, instruction, there's standards, there's safe and supportive schools, right? That basic need, that Maslow. And then what materials and resources are there to help kind of all of those things work towards supporting student achievement. So in Pennsylvania, we have one of the assessments is the PSSA, given grades 3 through 8, as well as the Keystone exam in high school. The exception of algebra is sometimes given in with sixth, seventh, or eighth graders, depending on their performance. And there's also national assessments, which we'll take a look at later in the coursework. But as a coach or a building leader, as a reading specialist, you're going to want to be familiar with these structures and the resources available so that you can leverage them best when looking at some of these assessments or some of the scores, and then comparing that with local assessments and really getting at, what do these things mean? So in this activity, you're going to go and explore 4 different sites. You have 50 minutes set aside for this one. There's the Department of Education, which goes over all the resources available for the assessments with PSSA and Keystone. There's the SAS website. I believe if you don't have an account, it's free to register. There's a link to the RTII MTSS supports, as well as Data Recognition Corp, which has some information for teachers regarding the PSSA and the Keystone exams. So just going to switch gears here. So after you watch the video here on D2L, you're going to click on this PDE structure link, which will give you the directions and the links to all of the sites that I just had on the previous slide. If this last one doesn't work right from the Word doc, just copy it and paste it into a web browser and it will work. I had an issue on my computer. Um, so really just for each of these, you're going to write a brief. I'm going to highlight this right now, a brief response on a Google Doc. You're just going to answer if you're using it, how are you using it? If not, how could you? Just kind of just from looking at the site. What's something that's new and why would it be important for you to share? And how could you help a colleague utilize this resource? And there's a link to the Google Doc here. You can also access it from the D2L page, which is right here. And you'll see you'll come to a Google Doc with your name, and there's a column for each site, and you're just going to type in brief. I can't imagine it being more than 3 sentences. And you're going to spend, it's 50 minutes total. Think about 10 minutes for each site, and kind of a 2 minute response for typing. And I'm not checking spelling and correctness. I'm really looking for you to engage with it, these sites a little bit, and to be familiar with them, because you'll want to utilize them later on for some of the assessment projects that you'll be doing. So that concludes part 2 of this video.